Assassin's Creed Valhalla surpassed 20 million players mark. Ubisoft has shared the big news on its official Twitter handle, which shows that Assassin's Creed Valhalla has crossed 20 million players since its launch in November 2020. Please note that this number is not a sales figure. Talking about the 20 million players, these include free weekend players, Ubisoft Plus and PS Plus premium members. Assassin's Creed Valhalla also holds the record for the series' highest sales in its first week of launch. The talk right now may be all about Assassin's Creed Mirage, but it's not quite all over for Assassin's Creed Valhalla fans. A final story expansion is coming later this year. Subtitled The Last Chapter, because, of course, it's the last chapter. Valhalla's final expansion is expected to launch in a few months' time and sees Eivor say goodbye to their people and set forth for distant shores and new adventures. Assassin's Creed Valhalla players will be able to jump into Eivor's last chapter this year, but Ubisoft has a lot of work to do in order to give players a satisfying conclusion. The latest title in the franchise was released in 2020 and brings players to the Viking Age and in command of Eivor Varinsdottir. Assassin's Creed Valhalla's massive open world and lengthy storyline blends the franchise's battle between the Templars and Assassins with the mythology of the region in which it takes place. During the Ubisoft Forward event this year, Ubisoft confirmed that, alongside new titles Assassin's Creed Mirage and Red, Eivor would be given a new bit of content titled The Last Chapter. This content addition is set to wrap up Eivor's story as well as the story of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Ubisoft Montreal's Assassin's Creed Valhalla has had over 20 million players since launching in November 2020. It doesn't reflect sales figures, especially if free weekends, Ubisoft Plus and PlayStation Plus Extra players are included. However, it's no secret that the open-world action RPG is a massive success. It set a record in first-week launch sales, which were higher than any previous game in the series for the same period. In its full year 2021-22 earnings report, Ubisoft revealed that the title had generated over €300 million in net bookings. Since launch, it's had two minor paid expansions, Wrath of the Druids and the Siege of Paris, and a big expansion in Dawn of Ragnarok. It's also received plenty of free updates, most recently with Tombs of the Fallen. The free quest arc will nicely tie up some of the storylines established throughout the game and see Eivor reunite with some key characters, including some influential historical ones, according to Ubisoft. Whilst no formal release date was given, the video description says the last chapter is coming in 2022, so we shouldn't have too long to wait. For more about what came out of last night's Ubisoft Forward, check out Ubisoft Talks Assassin's Creed Mirage, from Valhalla expansion to standalone franchise celebration. If you're catching up on the night's announcements, the evening was dominated by teases for two blockbuster Assassin's Creed projects now in development. Codename Red will be set in feudal Japan, while Codename Hex looks to be inspired by European witchcraft. Answering the Vinland question. The most important question about Eivor's life after the events of Assassin's Creed Valhalla is how she ended up being buried in North America. Vikings did historically visit this continent, and players even got the chance to bring Eivor here once before in order to track down Gormtjotvessen, a member of the Order of Ancients, but she then returned to England. At the moment it is unclear what would bring the Viking back to this region and why it was that Eivor decided to spend her last days there. It is therefore important for the developers to tie up the loose ends remaining in England and show what drew Eivor to the new land. It isn't clear how much of this last chapter will take place in England and how much will bring players back to Assassin's Creed Valhalla's Vinland, but it is important that the motivations for Eivor's move in the last chapter are clear and reasonable. Otherwise, players will be left with the most nagging question remaining since the game came out 2 years ago. Leaving the village and its people could come in a variety of different shapes, and it will be interesting to see how Ubisoft approaches this aspect of the final chapter. It will equally be interesting to note whether players that complete this final chapter will be able to return to her home. As Assassin's Creed Valhalla players know, Eivor ends up passing away in North America, a long journey from Ravensthorpe. Another free update, The Last Chapter, is slated to release later this year and will wrap up Eivor's story.